Let's talk about that's the X's and O's. Let's talk about the Jimmies and Joes, because it's not just someone going to be breaking the American record. There's going to be a name attached. Like, there are actual runners in this race, and we've got some good ones. We've got the two best marathoners in the United States, Conor Mantz and Clayton Young. We've got Joe Klecker, who's made 3 U.S. teams in the 10,000 meters in recent years. We've got Hillary Bohr, who is the U.S. 10-mile record holder and a 3-time U.S. champion in the steeple. We've got Morgan Pearson, who ran 61:08 in the half in Valencia in October. We've got Diego Estrada, who ran 60:49 in Houston last year, and Zach Panning and Sam Chalanga as well. So quite a deep field here. Who do you guys, if someone breaks the record on Sunday, who do you think it's going to be?
Let's not kid ourselves, John. If it's not one of two names, I would be shocked. You would be shocked. I think Robert would be shocked. And I've not discussed this with you. Let's just make sure we're on the same page. If the record goes down and it's not Conor Mantz or Joe Klecker, I'm shocked.
Likewise. I think those are certainly the two best candidates. They've both been successful in the 10,000 throughout their careers. Mantz is obviously a tremendous marathoner, and I think when you move down from the marathon to the half, I think normally you would say, oh, the gap between him and Clayton Young would actually get a bit wider. But the interesting thing here is, I was talking to Ed Eyestone, who coaches both of them, and he said, well, yeah, Connor missed maybe a week and a half of running workouts so that he didn't run them with Clayton. So I actually think they're going to be very close on Sunday, even at the half marathon. But yeah, I'm with you, Weldon. I think it's anything outside of those two, it is quite a surprise.
Huge surprise, because while we think, 59:43 isn't what it used to be. I mean, when Ryan Hall did it, he was 8th or 9th in world history. Now it's like 300th or something. Even according to the World Athletic Scoring Tables, the new ones, 2025, it's still equivalent to 13:03, 27:17, and 2:06:19 in the marathon. There's only 2 guys in this field I really think that are capable of running those times, that have run those times. And in your preview, you ranked them in order of most likely to least likely. You put Mantz first, Klecker second. I disagree with that. I think Klecker's most likely to do it. Mantz has been a little bit banged up. He's an animal. I know he loves the roads, but he's coming off of a marathon. He's been injured. He has nothing to do. He's been training for this race. He's coming off of a track career. And that's very similar to Ryan Hall. Ryan Hall was in the process of, he was a 5,000 meter runner. He was moving up to the marathon. This fit perfectly in it. It's the same thing for Joe Klecker. He's better. He has been, right? Would you say he's been better than Mantz on the track?
Oh, undoubtedly. Robert, I just tweeted out this stat. Joe Klecker has won his last 8 races against Conor Mantz. He has not lost to him. And that goes all the way back to 2019, Joe's senior year of college at the NCAA Cross Country Championships. Joe Klecker was second in 30:38. Conor Mantz was third in 30:40. And I know you love relying on old cross country races to make your points, Robert. So, in fact, the only times I see they've raced 15 times by my count in their career. Joe Klecker has won 13 of those 15 races. The only ones he lost were the 2019 Mountain Regional and the 2019 Pre-Nats. But yeah, on the track as pros, they have met 7 times. Klecker's won all 7 of those in the 5K or 10K.
So I think we give Mantz, I mean, he was a 2-time NCAA cross country champion, obviously, but I sometimes think and I think he's smaller than Klecker, so I think he's going to be better at the marathon. And in this article, Ritz admits that. We said, you never know how someone's going to be in the marathon until they do it, but I'm really confident in Klecker in the half marathon. I agree. I think the white man has trouble at the marathon historically, and that the half we can cheat and get by it. So I think Klecker's the man to do it. I was excited for him to do it because John from Ad have disparaged him, sort of his prospects in the past on the track, but this is perfect for him. American record. But I am worried about this win now, the more I think about it. The other thing that's weird about this win, 13 miles an hour is not crazy. If you've got a rabbit at the beginning and you're not running into it, but they're going to be running, it's out of the due north. Think about it this way. The streets are often or set up like north, south, east, west. So when it's out of the due north, you're running straight into it. There's no buildings to be blocking it or anything. It's just straight down the road, right into your face. If it's out of the northeast or southeast, you're getting some crosswind blocked by the buildings. This is no straight into a 23-mile-an-hour gust.
Well, yeah, that's gusting. But Robert, it's interesting. You're talking about like sort of underrating Joe throughout his career, but talking to Dathan Ritzenhein ahead of this race, he admitted, like, when I started working with Joe in 2020, I thought we were going to be moving to the roads sooner than this. And he's exceeded all of our expectations on the track. They didn't think he'd be as good as he was in the 10,000 meters, but he kept making teams. So, like, well, we don't need to move up just yet. And now they think it's the time. And I do think having that track speed, he didn't have a 2024 track season really because of the torn adductor, but that was a big thing. Ryan Hall said, I think the best time in my career I could have run a half marathon was January 2007 because I was coming off that track season and I never really was in doing track stuff the rest of my career. So I never had that speed for a half. Joe Klecker's got it. Now, the thing is though, Connor Mantz still does like to run the track. I mean, he ran the Olympic trials in the 10K last year and Klecker didn't. So I think he keeps that side of his running. He keeps in touch with it a bit more than the average US marathoner. So I think that's something working in his favor. But I do think he made a good case for Klecker there.
The other thing that is worth pointing out that I loved about these articles and getting ready for this race was going back in time to the Let's Run archives, finding the homepage from the day after Ryan Hall's record. Even reading your article, like Ritz is like, yeah, I found out about it at practice. Someone texted or someone called. Like back then, everything wasn't instant. I mean, the internet had been around for 10 years, but it still took time for news to get places. People weren't texting as much.
No, the funny thing, Robert, was people on the message board, instead of just like linking to a live results thing or something like that, there's people saying he ran 59:43 and they're like, nah, that must be wrong. Like you must, the course must, they screwed something up. Like where's the proof? Whereas now, we'd know instantaneously because we're streaming the race broadcast. So it was kind of interesting catching that word of mouth.
But shortly after the race ended, Weldon Johnson started the thread saying, Ryan Hall's performance is the blank best distance American performance ever. People were debating where it ranked. And it's interesting. Back then, there weren't as many posts. Like, there's only 6 pages as posts, but they were all real high quality. Somebody pointed out what that time was equal to on the World Athletics scoring tables at the time. So, right, I just told you it's worth 13:03 and 27:17 and 2:06 right now. Back then, it was worth, and this is pre-super shoes on the track, 12:47 in the 5,000, 26:42 in the 10,000, and 2:05:23 in the marathon. It was better than every American record, mid-distance or distance-wise. And that's what just made it so amazing. Do I think Klecker's that type of athlete? No. With the shoes, do I think he's that type of athlete? Yes. Wind counteracts the shoes. God, I guess I got to say he's not going to get the damn record. Shit.
John, didn't he say he wasn't going to get the record about 5 minutes ago or maybe 10 minutes ago?
That was my memory of things, yes.
It's like when you're at a bar and you ask the girl to, hey, you want to head out of here? And she says no. You don't just give up. You contemplate it. You keep chatting, and maybe 5 minutes later, you come up with a different conclusion.
How many times, Robert, before you give up? Like, I don't want to be spending the rest of this podcast just listening to you try to convince yourself of the American record being broken.
John, I've never done that in a bar. I was a wimp.
I mean, some would call it respectful when the girl turns you down. You just accept that and sort of move on. But I guess you need to read the room. All right, let's talk about the other Americans in this race. Because one thing, Robert, you're giving me all this praise. You're saying, oh, I loved your articles. These are so good. But before we start recording, you're like, oh, I can't believe you published this Houston preview. You got so many mistakes in here. So I want to hear, what's your criticism? Let's start with my rankings of most likely to least likely to get the record, because I think you had some quibbles with that.
Yes, you got Mantz 1. The more I'm thinking about it, I'm putting Klecker 1, but I'm not going to quibble too much about that. You've got Mantz 1, Klecker 2. I would probably have it the other way, but that may be just me trying to throw out some love to On. Clayton Young 3rd. These other guys aren't doing it. I just didn't like the order. Like Clayton Young, yeah, I would put him third just out of respect for what he's done. I don't think he's getting it. Diego Estrada is fourth. No, that's not happening. You have Morgan Pearson fifth. If a Olympic triathlete gets the American record over these pros, it's kind of like if you can't beat the women's record in the marathon, you need to consider yourself not to be a pro. If Pearson gets it, all these other guys should hand in their pro cards. So you have Pearson, then Hillary Bohr.
Wait a second. Wait a
Pearson
second.
beat Hillary Bohr in Valencia,
You're
but
saying
Hillary Bohr needs to be ahead of all of these people. So it should go Clayton Young, then Hillary Bohr, because he's at least in the past shown the talent. He's gone out in 60 flat pace. He's tried to do this in the past. If anyone does it, if this is perfect weather, I really think there's only 4 people I could see doing it. I think Mantz and Klecker are like 98%. And then I would maybe see Clayton Young doing it. It'd be cool if Clayton Young did it. Ed Isom said there's not much separating him between Mantz and him. So, yeah, I could see Young running under 59.43 in perfect conditions, but I don't see him beating those other 2 guys. But then I think Hillary Bohr is next on the list. That doesn't mean that I think he's necessarily going to beat Estrada or Pearson. I'm just trying to think of like whose upside is great enough that on a perfect day, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, particularly if he wasn't 35, I could have seen them doing that.
Okay, because I guess my rankings, I really should have just phrased it as who I think is most likely to finish as top American, because I don't think beyond the top 3, the other guys really have a great shot at the American record. But I do think, I think actually Bohr probably does have a better ceiling in terms of breaking the record than Pearson. Though I think I'd probably pick Pearson to win head to head. He did beat him in Valencia in October, and I think he's going to be a bit better than Valencia. Though, of course, Bohr sort of ran out of gas. But let me clarify here, Robert. You're saying if Morgan Pearson's the top American, that America's top 2 marathoners and Joe Klecker, who could be on his way to that category, they all need to turn in their pro cards and retire from running?
Maybe that's not fair. I mean, and the Ravens do have a 3rd wide out and a 4th wide out.
I mean, do you realize who Morgan Pearson beat around this time in 2024? America's only distance gold medalist from the 2024 Olympics, Cole Hawker. He beat him at USA Cross Country. So I'm glad that we didn't have the if Morgan Pearson beats you, you must turn in your pro card policy in place back then.
That was club cross country at 10K though, John. Slightly different.
Not club cross, US cross, but yes, it was an XC 10K.
Look, Morgan's amazing.
I just think we shouldn't undersell him because he's been in a lot of these workouts with Joe Klecker and Morgan McDonald, who's with the On Athletics Club and also running Houston. And they've been saying this guy's ready to go. Like Dathan Ritzenheim said it wouldn't shock him if Morgan runs under 60 minutes in the half. And Dathan knows the half marathon very well. So I think he's going to run well. And I think he'll be with that lead US pack. Like if they're going out on 59:30 pace, I think I could see him giving that a shot. I'm very intrigued to see how he does.
Some of these quotes by Dathan are pretty good. Because if he thinks Morgan can run under an hour, I'm sure he thinks Klecker can run well under an hour. But we still have now the complicating factor of the win. But
the quote says, it wouldn't surprise me if you break 60, but other than one really big, hard workout, he's been with Morgan and Joe every major workout. So he was not able to hold up to him on one of the major workouts. So that's interesting. Look,
end of the day, the weather's going to determine this. And Ritz's quote, I think, shows that. He's talking about Klecker, and he says, I know that he can go for the pace, and I feel confident if the race is set up, he can have a good chance for it. But I'm not going to tell him to push for the record either. I'm just going to say, let's get in and race. We've got the critical mass of people. The question's going to be the weather, and then also if somebody wants to, people got to be motivated early to keep it going, I think. Otherwise, it's just going to settle into a 60-30 race.
Well, they're going to have a rabbit.
Or slower. It's windy. Do they have 10 rabbits?
But they're going to have tailwind at the start. So I think they're going to be underpaced.
Okay. Tailwind, they might book a bunch of time and think, hell, we got this. This could be, who knows? Maybe it goes. If they're just cruising at the beginning, just crushing it.
I mean, didn't
This might
care
be interesting.
if Steve Jobs hadn't killed Weather Underground, I could look up. Didn't Cara D'Amato set the American record in this place? Windy as Hell Day.
Yes, I mentioned that about 10 minutes ago.